The Baltimore Ravens have officially entered survival mode. After a brutal four-game losing streak, everything is now on the line in their Week 8 showdown against the surging Chicago Bears, a team that's riding a four-game winning streak and playing with a completely different energy. It's a matchup that feels like a clash of momentum versus desperation, and it's happening at a critical moment in the Ravens season. This isn't just another regular season game. For Baltimore, this is a defining moment, and anything less than a win could push this franchise toward a breaking point. Let's start with the energy coming out of Chicago. Head coach Ben Johnson didn't hold back when talking about his upcoming opponent. Despite the Ravens' losing record, he made it clear that he still respects what John Harbaugh and this Ravens team bring to the table. In Johnson's words, the Ravens' record doesn't really indicate what they're capable of doing. He talked about how Baltimore can still put up points in bunches and emphasized how Harbaugh's defense always finds a way to respond, no matter how bad things get. That's a nod to Harbaugh's experience, a guy who's only had 2 losing seasons during his time in Baltimore, and it's clear the Bears aren't taking this game lightly. But here's where things get tricky. The Ravens are not just dealing with on-field problems. The organization has been surrounded by a storm of locker room drama, miscommunication, and a lot of off-the-record finger-pointing. A report from the Baltimore Sun stirred the pot by suggesting that Ravens coaches had removed fun elements like the ping-pong table and basketball hoop from the locker room to get players to focus. That story turned into a full-on distraction. Later, other reports came out claiming it wasn't actually the coaches, but the players themselves who decided to remove those items. Now no one seems to know what's true. Some fans believe Harbaugh is covering something up. Others think it's all just noise. Either way, it's a mess. And it's happening while the team is falling apart on the field. Even with all this chaos, there was at least one bright spot this week. Lamar Jackson returned to practice. After missing time with a hamstring injury, the franchise quarterback was back, limited, but back, and it was a welcome sight for a team that has looked completely lifeless without him. If Jackson can suit up on Sunday, that changes the entire equation. Because let's be honest, without him, the Ravens are not a competitive football team right now. Tyler Huntley and Cooper Rush haven't been able to replicate even a fraction of what Lamar brings to the table. With Lamar, the offense has explosiveness. Without him, it's one-dimensional and predictable. And make no mistake, this Bears team is not the same Bears team from last year. Ben Johnson has injected life into the franchise, and even if the wins haven't always come pretty, they've come with toughness. 1-point wins over the Commanders and Raiders showed that this team is learning how to close. They're creating turnovers, playing complementary football, and capitalizing on mistakes. You can tell this group has started to believe. The locker room is buying in, and players who used to disappear in big moments are now making clutch plays when it matters. For a team that used to invent ways to lose, that's a huge culture shift. So let's talk about what really matters, the matchup. The Ravens are walking into this game with a defense that ranks dead last in points allowed and bottom 3 in yards. They're not just losing games, they're getting gashed. The pass rush has been almost non-existent, and the secondary is giving up chunk plays at an alarming rate. Baltimore is also struggling to force turnovers, which is something this team used to hang its hat on. In fact, they've only created 3 turnovers in 6 games, good for near the bottom of the league. Compare that to Chicago, which leads the league in turnover percentage. That disparity could be the difference in this game. The defensive injuries have been brutal for Baltimore, no question. Marlon Humphrey didn't practice. Tavius Robinson is going to injured reserve. Their best interior pass rusher, Nnamdi Matabike, hasn't played since week 2 and is out for the season. It's gotten so bad that the Ravens now only have 3 outside linebackers on the roster after trading away Odafe Oweh. They're relying on young guys who weren't supposed to have major roles this early. Mike Green, Malachi Starks, Emory Jones. All of them have been thrown into the fire. And they're learning the hard way that potential doesn't always translate to production in year 1. And then there's Roquan Smith, the former Bears linebacker now facing his old team for the first time since the trade. Smith hasn't looked like himself so far this season, dealing with lingering injuries and inconsistency. But if there's a game where you expect him to flip the switch, it's this one. Ben Johnson praised Smith ahead of the matchup, calling him fast, instinctual, and a guy who's been playing at an all-pro level for 5 years. Whether that was coach speak or genuine admiration, it doesn't matter. Roquan knows all eyes will be on him Sunday. And in a revenge game, you better believe he'll try to remind Chicago what they gave up. Of course, the Ravens' offense has its own issues. Even with Lamar Jackson on the field, they've been painfully inconsistent. Zay Flowers has emerged as a legitimate #1 receiver, already racking up over 400 receiving yards, more than double what any other Ravens pass catcher has produced. But he can't do it all alone. The offensive line has struggled to protect the quarterback and open up lanes in the run game. And speaking of the run game, Derrick Henry has been underused and mismanaged, especially in critical red zone situations. We've seen drives stall because the Ravens overthink things inside the 5-yard line, taking the ball out of Henry's hands and trying to get cute. That's how you lose games. The red zone has been a disaster for Baltimore all year long. They're converting touchdowns on just over 44% of red zone trips, one of the worst rates in the entire NFL. It's part of a larger issue where this team can move the ball between the 20s, but once they get close, everything falls apart. Poor play calling, lack of execution, and missed assignments have cost this team points every week. Against a Bears team that can force turnovers and limit third-down conversions, those missed chances could be the difference between a much-needed win and another brutal loss. And the Bears' secondary? They've already been without Jalen Johnson. Now, there's real concern that Tariq Stevenson won't be available either. If that happens, Chicago could be looking at starting 2 backup corners, which would leave them extremely vulnerable against a speedy, shifty receiver like Zay Flowers. The Bears may have to adjust by moving Kyler Gordon to the outside or playing more zone coverage, which could open up space underneath for guys like Mark Andrews or Justice Hill. But again, that only matters if the Ravens can protect Lamar long enough to make those reads. If the offensive line collapses, none of that matters. Defensively, the Ravens have to find a way to get pressure on Caleb Williams. Because here's the deal. Williams has had moments of brilliance, but he's also made some very questionable decisions. He's gotten away with several near picks over the last few weeks, and if Baltimore's secondary can bait him into a bad read or two, they might finally get that turnover luck they've been missing. The key will be speeding up his internal clock, forcing him off his spot, and not letting him get comfortable. If the Ravens sit back and let him operate, he'll make them pay. But that's a big if, because the Ravens haven't consistently gotten home with 4 pass rushers, and blitzing too much could leave them exposed on the back end. It's a tough balance to strike, especially with a banged-up secondary and a linebacker group that's still trying to find its identity. Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith are going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. They need to play fast, communicate clearly, and clean up the mental mistakes that have plagued this unit all season long. There's a lot more to unpack, including how the Bears have transformed their offense, who's actually going to be healthy enough to play, and what kind of statement both teams are looking to make in this pivotal matchup. But one thing is already clear. The Ravens are officially out of room for error. If they don't figure it out now, it might already be too late. While all eyes are on Lamar Jackson and whether he'll suit up for this must-win game, the reality is that the Ravens' problems go far beyond the quarterback position. Sure, Lamar changes the dynamic instantly. His return would give this offense a fighting chance. But even if he's out there at full strength, this Ravens team has to prove that it can execute across the board. No more excuses. No more what-ifs. The time for potential, and we're still figuring it out, has passed. This team needs results now. Let's take a closer look at the numbers that really matter in this matchup. The Bears' defense has become a turnover machine. Since their bye week, they've ramped up the pressure, played more single-high looks, stacked the box, and forced opposing quarterbacks into mistakes. Against the Commanders and Raiders, Chicago's defense forced multiple turnovers and completely shifted the momentum of those games. And even though the Saints were able to move the ball, Chicago still managed to get off the field at critical times. That's something the Ravens haven't done much of this year. Baltimore's defense ranks near the bottom in turnover percentage, and they've often let teams off the hook with poor tackling, busted coverages, or penalties on third down. Those issues have plagued the Ravens for weeks now. You see flashes of what they could be, stretches where the defense clamps down, where the offense moves with rhythm, but it never lasts. One drive looks like a Super Bowl caliber team. The next one looks like they forgot how to play football. That inconsistency has drained confidence in the locker room and among fans. And if they start slow against Chicago, they might not get a chance to recover. This Bears team has learned how to close out tight games. They've figured out how to take advantage of mistakes. That wasn't true last year, but it is now. And the health situation on both sides could be a massive factor. For the Ravens, they're finally starting to get a little healthier. Lamar returned to practice in limited fashion, as did key players like Zay Flowers, Patrick Ricard, and Ronnie Stanley. That's encouraging. Roquan Smith is also expected to play after missing time, and while he hasn't looked like himself lately, the hope is that he'll be closer to full speed against his former team. The only major names who didn't practice this week were Marlon Humphrey and Tavius Robinson. Humphrey is always a game-changer when he's out there, but he's been dealing with injuries all year. As for Robinson, he was placed on injured reserve, and that's a tough blow for a team already thin at outside linebacker. To help with depth, the Ravens activated Emory Jones, a versatile piece who might see more time than expected. But that's the theme of Baltimore's season: rookies and backups playing major roles, whether they're ready or not. And it's shown. Malachi Starks, their rookie safety out of Georgia, has struggled with confidence and communication. Mike Green, a second-round pick who was supposed to bring a spark to the pass rush, has been mostly quiet. This youth movement wasn't by design, it's been forced by necessity. And when you stack that kind of inexperience against a team gaining confidence and playing aggressive, it creates dangerous matchups. Chicago, on the other hand, is a little banged up themselves. DeAndre Swift, DJ Moore, and Cole Kmet were all on the injury report this week. The early expectation is that they'll suit up, but they're not 100%. DJ Moore has been battling a hip and groin issue for a few weeks now, even spending a night in the hospital after the Commanders game. Swift has some soreness. Kmet has seen his role reduced because of lingering pain. If any of those guys are limited on Sunday, it could shift the game plan, especially for a Bears team that's relied on balance and versatility to win these last few games. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the NFL, whispers around the league have grown louder today. Zay Flowers, the electrifying young wide receiver, is reportedly set to leave the Baltimore Ravens. Sources close to the situation suggest that the 22-year-old sensation, who quickly became a fan favorite, has made a decision on his next destination, although official confirmation is still pending. The Ravens, who had invested heavily in Flowers' development, are said to be bracing for a massive blow. Known for his blistering speed, precise route running, and uncanny ability to make defenders miss, Flowers quickly became a cornerstone of Baltimore's offense. Now, rumors hint that the team might be forced to fill a hole that could drastically alter their offensive strategy heading into next season. Insiders indicate that multiple franchises have been circling Flowers, each eager to harness his dynamic talent. Teams are ready to do whatever it takes, one source whispered. While the names of potential landing spots remain speculative, the chatter suggests that he's not just looking for a change of scenery, but a team that can maximize his unique skill set and give him a shot at becoming one of the league's elite stars. Fans and analysts alike are already buzzing about the potential domino effect. If Flowers does indeed leave Baltimore, the ripple could impact the Ravens' draft strategies, salary cap planning, and even the morale of the locker room. Meanwhile, social media has exploded with debates over which franchise could pull off the blockbuster acquisition. Some argue a powerhouse team with a proven quarterback might be the perfect fit, while others believe a rebuilding squad could be the ideal playground for his talents. While the Ravens have not issued an official statement, insiders say talks are ongoing, and both sides are working behind closed doors to settle the future of their young star. One thing is certain: wherever Zay Flowers lands, the NFL world will be watching closely, and the excitement surrounding his next chapter is already reaching fever pitch. Stay tuned, because if this rumor proves true, it could be the most shocking off-season move of the year. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.